Alright, some simple questions to start today's video off. Do any of you guys know what NFTs are? Do any of you guys have NFTs? And do you guys know how much of a garbage fire NFTs right now are? Let me know down below in the comments. And no, this is not me endorsing NFTs. They are a garbage fire. I don't want to touch them with a 10-foot pole, but I want to talk about them. Even though today's video is in no way attached to NFTs, because today we're building a Lynx habitat. Finally. But hey everyone, my name is Poisonblade. I hope all of you are doing well today. And as I said, today we're seeing miracles unfold because I'm finally building a Lynx habitat. Yes, I've been postponing this for I think almost a month. But anyways, before we get into the actual video, don't forget to hit the like button because it does help out a lot with the algorithm. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you want to see more. And now let's get into the dumpster fire. Alright, so let's start off with the actual Lynx habitat. Let's keep the dumpster fire that is NFTs for later. But when it came to the Lynx habitat, yeah, this is the reason why I took a break for 2 weeks. Well, not really specifically the Lynx habitat, but I built 3 versions of this Lynx habitat. Third one is the one that you're seeing right now, but basically last week, actually the weekend before last week, I trashed 2 Lynx habitats. 2 complete builds that I just didn't feel like they were good enough to basically show you guys and to really keep in Eve Zoo. So I trashed 2 complete Lynx builds, and I was kind of in the fog that I sometimes get into where I don't really see how much work I'm actually doing, because trashing 2 complete builds is like trashing 4 days of work. And I just saw it as, oh, I'm trashing 2 builds because they're not good enough. And anyone looking in from the outside would probably think, you're trashing 4 days of work. That's not that good. So I quickly realized after trashing the second version that alright, I am on the path to burning myself out. So let's take a week break to basically get my head together again, just de-stress and everything. You know, try to avoid any sort of basically mental vulnerability, I would call it. This is a routine. This is a cycle that I sometimes go into where I start building and I am completely enveloped in what I'm doing, such as with Eve Zoo. I was completely enveloped in just I want to build more in Eve Zoo and build and build and build, and then also with the stress of making videos and having a schedule set and starting to slowly lose sight of how much work I was actually doing, to the point that basically becoming kind of mentally vulnerable, which is basically my way of saying that I would be I could have worked more for another month, but then any kind of negative event would just have been this slippy slide into a downward spiral when it comes to mental health, because I would then be just so overworked, stressed and everything that any sort of negative event would have just caused them, well, not really mental spiral, but just would have not been very good for my mental health. This is actually the thing that happened October of last year, where I kind of took a month off because I overworked myself. Something bad happened, which I won't go into, and then it just went downhill. So seeing the same pattern again made me realize, alright, I need to take a break now. But anyways, that's what happened for last week. I just took a break to de-stress, re-energize myself, and not fall into the same pattern again. And I didn't stop building in that week, because this is built in the last week. And this is actually the funny thing. I took a break for a day, and then after that day I found this one picture on Pinterest, because Pinterest is just where I get my inspiration right now. And I was just this is what I'm looking for, because the first build that I trashed was too large, because I wanted an interior, a shelter with a viewing area, a building with the lynxes. But the first one, too large. The second one was just, it wasn't good enough for me. I have quite high standards when it comes to builds, and I think Kane actually mentioned that to me, that it would probably be like okay for everybody else, but me being Poison and having very high standards, and also, I mean, it's YouTube, you want to show your best builds. So yeah, again, like, I'm glad I took a 1 week off to just de-stress, because after de-stressing, this is what comes out of it. And I'm very proud of what I'm building right now, which is a nightmare. Again, I'm very happy with what I built, but it's a very interesting build because it's right behind Valhalla, like the restaurant that I built. So it had to kind of blend in with Valhalla, but also be enough of its own thing to stand out. So that basically means a nightmare. Valhalla was not that much of a nightmare to build. It was very tedious to build, but this building, it includes everything. There's a round, hanging or overarching sleeping area for the lynxes, so that round thing that I built in the beginning is actually the sleeping area that kind of hangs over the pod. So if you look up from just the general pod, you can actually see lynxes above you, well, at least if they're sleeping there at that time. And then there's also just sort of, I would call it like barnyard feel, like with how the rest of the building is shaped. But then the roof is, I'm good with the rectangular or boxy shapes. I'm good with round shapes. Anything in between is just pain. And the roof, when it came to this building, is just that, because it's like, for some reason I decided to make it on a slight angle. Like one side of the roof is just a rectangular, but the other side is slightly on an angle. You have, of course, the round thing sticking through it, which is completely glass all the way. So that also needed to be like finished off perfectly so that it looked nice, because this is the thing that you can get away with when you're not building an interior. Like, you can just stick things into the building, nobody will see it. But because so much of this building, well, basically everything of this building is visible, there were no hiding places here. So I needed to make this building perfect. And then later on, I also built a natural garden, because I like to throw those in there, because Eve Zoo is like, in a lot of places, it's very rigid. Like, there's a lot of like just like straight lines or just clean lines. But I love to like sprinkle in some natural gardens with just like the natural pots and then stones to be like the boundary for those pots, and then just have plants kind of growing wild. I love to make all of those into like insect gardens. And then I also later on built like a more structural, like sculptural garden where there's, again, the very clean lines, a lot of round lines or just round builds or circles. I know for sure that like that sculptural garden is like, it's from some kind of like very pretentious artist. Like some artist was invited to build, or like the landscape artist was invited to build that garden or design that garden for Izu. But it was just fun to build like two very different basically techniques or themes, like a natural garden and then a very sculpted, manicured garden. And then the very just natural looking habitat, which I first thought that like the habitat that should go behind Valhalla should be more open. But I actually like just building the forest behind Valhalla. It really feels like if you're on like the porch or just the balcony of Valhalla, it really just feels like you're hanging or floating above the forest. I really like how it ended up looking. Although, again, the viewing area and shelter for, or indoor section for the lynxes was, oh, pain. But anyways, I mentioned NFTs in the intro. And again, no, this is not me endorsing NFTs in any sort of way. They are a dumpster fire. And I think a lot of people who get into it don't actually know what they're getting into, because I'm going to link a video in the description of Just Rafael who explains what NFTs are for those who don't know, because he is going to describe it a lot better than what I'm going to try here. But NFTs are basically, well, usually they are associated with like a picture or some kind of file. Like, it doesn't have to be a picture, but like the most stereotypical thing for NFTs are like the monkey pictures or the monkey JPEGs. Lately, you now also have like just sort of like GIF, like animations, sometimes songs or something. But an NFT is not actually, like, if you buy an NFT, you're not actually buying that monkey picture. You're not buying that like short GIF-like animation or whatever is attached to it, you're buying the receipt. So you're not actually having any ownership of the picture that's attached to it. That's just like a visual thing that's loosely attached to it, because we humans are visual beings. Like if the NFT was just a web page, a blank web page, nobody would buy it. But because there's like this visual of like let's say a monkey picture attached to it, people are more likely to buy it because there's a visual thing or visual component to it. But you're not actually buying the actual picture, from what I know at least. You're not actually having any ownership or rights over the picture. Somebody can literally copy paste that picture and you can do nothing about it, because you don't own that picture, you own the receipts. Nothing else. So I actually saw this today on Twitter, because this is why I am talking about NFTs today, because my Twitter is just filled with NFT posts. Luckily, most of them are like about calling out, because recently there's been this kind of stream of celebrities endorsing NFTs, but a lot of the Twitter posts that I'm seeing are like calling out like how horrible NFTs are, and how how celebrities are being called out for endorsing them and such. Or celebrities. Most of these people that are celebrities I have never heard about, but that's just because I am very much living under a rock when it comes to media. I know that Silver is immediately just going to be like, yes, you don't watch movies, Poison. Of course you don't know any of these celebrities. But so NFTs are kind of a dumpster fire. There's also the thing of like them being very bad for the environment. I don't know fully how that goes. I think it's because of like all the processing. Like it's all like, it's all internet or just computer based. So there's a lot of processing power that's involved in like the electricity that's needed for that. I think that's the reason, but I don't know the full reason or the full idea by like the environmental impact, but I do know that it's bad. This is the one thing that like that I saw a lot, that like people are thinking that if they buy, let's say, the NFT of a gun in a game, that you could then take that gun from that game into another game and use it, which is just like, I don't know anything about game development. I have no idea about coding or anything, but I do have the basic understanding that games don't work like that. That like, if you buy the NFT of a gun in one game, it's not going to work in another game, because the coding of that game is going to be different. And then, let alone, like, companies are not going to want you to use a gun from a different game unless it's like in like the slightest chance that it would work. It would only work in like game franchises, but even then, like, coding in between games in a franchise is going to change. But you really think that, let's say, EA wants you to use the NFT of a gun made by Ubisoft? No, they want you to buy the NFT of a gun from them. Like, let's say if, like, I'm using a gun here, but like, let's just go with Bethesda, because that's the one thing that I right now have a little bit of an idea about. Or at least that's the one that pops into my head right now. The idea there can go then that, like, if you buy the NFT of a gun in Fallout, that you can use it in the Elder Scrolls. No, that's just going to completely break the game, and the coding is just not going to be there to support that. And then, let alone if, let's say, gun game A, but you are like shooter game A, and then you have shooter game B. You buy the NFT of a gun in game A and want to use it in game B. First of all, the coding needs to be so similar that to make that work, that it's just not, because no games are coded completely the same to make that work. At least that's my understanding of it. But then also, if let's say game A is owned by company A, and you take the NFT of their gun, they don't care what you do with it afterwards, so you can take their NFT and then where game B is owned by company B, and you want to use the gun from company A and game A into the game that's owned by company B and is game B, they don't want you to do that because company B wants you to buy the gun that company B offers. It's just, it's not going to work in between like different like game publishers or game like just in games in general. And just, it's such a, it's so stupid when you look at it. And like, then there's also, this is something I saw very, like, this is something I legitimately just saw an hour ago. But somebody, I think, purchased the NFT for a book for 2.8 million. Yeah, and yes, there's a lot of money involved in this thing with NFTs. And then they said, oh, we're going to make a movie out of this book. We're going to make like an entire franchise out of this book. You bought the NFT. You bought the receipt to the book. That doesn't give you ownership of the book itself. And even if you, like, that's... Even if you had ownership of the book itself. Like, if you bought a book from the store, you don't actually own the story. That's like me saying, oh, I bought a Harry Potter book. I can now make a Harry Potter movie. No. Copyright laws and everything is involved in that. Which becomes even further muddled because you bought the NFT, which means you don't actually own the book, you don't own the story, you just own a receipt. You don't even own the picture of that book, at least to my understanding. It's just, it's funny though to watch all of this NFT drama unfold. Like, I am definitely a person who like, I don't like to start drama, but I will be the one that sits on the sidelines eating popcorn. Just like watching it all, because like I have the feeling that just this entire NFT thing is going to implode. Actually, it's I think already starting, because the main thing with like NFTs is like, oh, they are, what's the word for it, decentralized or de-authorized. That's not even a word, but like there's no real authority figure in it. Like, it's no country or no like authority can really like claim anything when it comes to NFTs. But NFTs are all like, you know, internet based, or like, you know, I think you have like a wallet with NFTs somewhere on the internet. But basically, if you get hacked and your NFTs are stolen, you don't have anything to go to, which is funny because like the main thing with like NFTs are like, oh, there's no authority figure, there's no, like, it's completely decentralized. It's all in the hands of like the people owning them. Yeah, the ones who are getting hacked, you know who they are running to? To the authorities, who can do nothing for you because they have nothing when it comes to NFTs. That's the thing with like anarchists or something like that. Like, if things go wrong, you can't run to authority. Like, I think somebody got hacked and lost all of their NFTs worth like, I think millions. And they want to like pursue this in like a court of law or just like a legal case, but then the court can't do anything because they don't have authority over this. Like, if you make something to not have any authority or to be completely disconnected from authority, then don't go running to authority when things go wrong with that, because the authority can't do anything for you because you've completely disconnected it from any authority. But yeah, just please don't buy into NFTs or something. Like, there's a lot of game companies right now also like, oh yeah, we're going into the NFT market. Yeah, that's not for the players. Even like they say like, oh, it's all for the players. It's not. It's like microtransactions 2.0. Like, NFTs are in no way good for like game. It's just another way of putting more like microtransactions in a game without actually putting any effort in, because it's like, I think Ubisoft, or which game was it that legitimately just used like assets from their game, put like a code on it, and basically just threw it out as NFTs. There's like no actual effort. Although I think, wasn't it also Ubisoft who like lost so much money because their NFTs failed so badly because no actual gamers are actually interested in NFTs? Yeah. Again, like, if you're watching this and are thinking of buying NFTs, it's the same as like, you know, those websites that or businesses in the past that were like, oh, we are going to sell you a star. you know, after those companies folded, you didn't have any rights to those stars. We as humans barely know or barely keep ourselves from going at each other's throats over who owns what land on Earth. Do you really think that a company can suddenly own the rights to a star? NFTs are kind of like that. You own the receipt, you own the piece of paper that says you own the star, but you don't actually own the star because it's just it. NFTs are dumb. Please don't get into it. Like, it's going to implode. Like, I can just see this imploding from a mile away. And also, it's also kind of feels like a pyramid scheme. Like, you know, those like people from high school that then suddenly call you because they have this amazing business opportunity, but they are only making money by recruiting more people. The actual product they sell don't actually make them any money. They make money because they get you to spend money getting into the scheme. Yeah, it also kind of feels like that. It's not completely like the same, but it kind of feels like that. Just with like how hyped up the NFTs are getting by just ridiculous people. Again, please don't get into NFTs. But yeah, that's basically today's video. Just me ranting about how much of a dumpster fire NFTs are. And just, nah. Again, I say this for the third time now. Please don't get into NFTs. It's a garbage fire or dumpster fire right now. Maybe eventually they will get better, but I don't think so. I think it's going to implode at some point. But anyway, that's it for today's video. We've built a Lynx habitat. I have ranted about taking a week off and NFTs. This was a fun video to make because it's such a dumpster fire. And I love to talk about dumpster fires. It's the reason why I love to talk about Game of Thrones. It's a dumpster fire. But anyways, I don't know what we're going to do for next video. I was thinking of an Arctic fox habitat, but then I'm also thinking of doing like backstage areas because right now we have 2 backstage areas in each zoo. So either it's going to be a habitat or it's going to be backstage areas. Let me know what you want to see first in the comments down below. Let me know your history with NFTs. Again, please don't get into it because it really feels like it's just going to implode any second now. And yeah, have a wonderful day, guys. Also, don't forget to hit the like button because again, it does help out a lot with the algorithm. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you want to see more. And don't forget to hit the notification bell even though it's as broken as NFTs. I need ice cream after this. Anyway, have a wonderful day, guys. Bye bye.